The issue of undocumented migrants, often referred to as illegal immigrants, is a key one in public policy discussions in the UK. But the children of these undocumented migrants are often forgotten. I'm here to discuss the issue with Dr. Nando Sigona, a senior researcher at the Centre on Migration Policy and Society and at the Refugee Studies Centre at Oxford University. So Nando, who are irregular migrant children and approximately how many are there in the UK?
Of course, we are talking about a hidden population, so numbers are sort of estimated figures we're talking about. We will look at mainly to three categories of migrants. First of all, we have independent migrant children. That is those children who came in the UK alone and they live alone in the country. If you want an example, for example, we are talking about the unaccompanied asylum seekers who are often in the press. The other two categories are dependent migrant children. That is children who live with their families in the UK. However, there are a big distinction here. On one side, we have the children who are born abroad and they traveled with the families or alone, but then once in the UK, they live with the families or close relatives. The third group is those children who are born in the UK to parents who don't have legal status. And this is an important distinction because according to our research, this group is by far the largest one among the irregular migrant children. So if we're talking at a figure around 155,000 of migrant children without legal status, over half of them, 85,000 maybe, are born in the UK. So it's clear that there is an important issue for policy making, and at the moment it's not really addressed.
So what kind of issues does this create for public policy?
If we look at the policy framework that regulates this group of migrants in the country, we have to look mainly to two areas of legislation. On one side, we got, of course, the immigration system and the fact that these children don't have legal status, of course, and the way that the state regulates migration and deals with illegal resident people. On the other hand, we got the right of the child, which are enshrined in the UK legislation, and we should also remember that the UK is one of the parties in the UN Convention for the Right of the Child, which was signed in '89 and ratified the following year. This is important because it means that even if these children don't have legal status in the country, they still are holders of rights as children. And this is very clear from the Children Act 2004, but also from, of course, the overall UN Convention.
So what are the implications of this for the UK government at a national and at a local level?
Well, what we see is, broadly, is a tension between the obligation vis-à-vis children and the safeguard of children and their development, and the policy agenda towards controlling migration. And if we look more closely, you can see that basically the various levels of governance of migration, we see slightly different outcome from the way that this tension between the two policy agenda is squared. If you look at the local level, local authorities have by law an obligation to safeguard children. This means that they have to provide services and facilitate access to services for children irrespective of their legal status. If you look instead at the national government level, is different because the government is more under pressure from the public opinion for controlling migration, and somehow these children become, first of all, migrants, and somehow the debate around migration affects also the access to services and entitlement and rights. Another key actor in the implementation of the policy framework are service providers. I'm thinking in particular at schools and GP practice, which from our research really play a key role here. One of the consequences of the role of local authorities and local service providers within this issue and the way that they deal with irregular migrant children is the fact that there is a lot of variety in the country. So we see very different practices in the UK. Some local authorities are more open and more accessible, others are less. And this is what is happening nowadays, especially within this overall climate of welfare restructuring and the economic crisis, is that some of the local authorities that in the past were more open towards this group of migrants have been sort of forced by the economic circumstance to change their policy, and they are cutting on services that previously were addressing the needs of this group of migrants. This, of course, is affecting the way that the UK implements their obligation vis-à-vis the UNCRC, the UN Convention for the Rights of the Child.
You mentioned earlier on the issue of children who are born in the UK but to irregular migrant parents. Can you just explain the implications of that?
The issue is complex, of course. We are looking into a very large group of population, mostly invisible, a group of children who are not only born, but they're also born and bred in the UK. They have English as mostly as their first language, they go to school, they have access to the GP, and at some point in their life, the fact that they don't have a legal status starts to affect them, especially, for example, when they get closer to 18 years old, when they try to enroll for university or college, or when the school organize a school trip and they are not allowed to go because they don't have a legal document to travel outside the UK. So in their life, up to that moment somehow, they don't even realize in most cases that they are irregular migrants. And actually, in reality, being born in the UK, they are not even migrants, if you think about it. The problem is that at the moment, there is not really any legal tool for regularize them. So you may be born in UK, live all your life in UK until 18, and then being sent back home. But where is home? This is the point. Until 2008, there was the 7-year concession, which basically meant that people could apply after 7 years in the country, minors could apply after 7 years in the country for indefinite leave to remain. And this was a way of solving the situation of many of these children. But since then, since its abolishment, we don't have an alternative. So basically, practically, we have a legal limbo for these minors now.
So where do irregular migrant children sit within the framework of UK law?
Well, the situation is that at the moment, in the public debate, in the policy debate, a lot of our focus and attention is on specific group of this irregular migrant. There is not really an understanding of the irregular migrant child as a category. We speak about, for example, the children in detention and all the debate around ending children detention. There has been attention about trafficking children, which is also extremely important, of course. But then if you look at the numbers, we're talking about a relatively small number of minors compared to the 150,000 that I mentioned earlier in the interview. So it's really important, I think, that there is an overall strategy or an overall attempt to think about this group of people, because basically we are creating an underclass of migrants, of people who feel an attachment to the country, but then they have no way of regularizing their position.
Nando, thanks.
You're welcome.